You're listening to Thunderquack Podcast Network. This is the Thunderquack Podcast, the official podcast of Thunderquack Podcast Network, where anything can happen. So strap yourselves in and hold on to your butts. It's Thunderquack time!
Hello and welcome back to the Thunderquack Podcast, the official podcast of Thunderquack.com, which you can get early every Tuesday over at patreon.com/Thunderquack, just like our Patreon producers Brian Mirowski and JJ Samuel. Or you can wait and get it late every Friday on podcast services across the galaxy. I am one of your hosts, Michael Cohen.
And I'm your other host, Amanda Conkin.
It's late. Let's just full disclosure.
Yeah.
It's late. It's already 9:45 and we're just starting the main part of the episode. That doesn't mean that we didn't start relatively on time. I think we started at about 8:45.
We did. I had random things to talk about. Very rarely do I have things to talk to Mike about that we do not record. But every once in a while, I remember that Mike is my friend and somebody I podcast with. And every now and then I'm like, hey, Mike, let's just be friends for 15 minutes.
Yeah, we have a relationship outside of what you guys hear on the microphones.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it's weird.
It's different. It's different, I think, right now because everything is virtual.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's remote. I think it's much easier in person because like the normal routine when you were coming to the house to do Arrow was like to do Quiver was like you come in and usually I'm either finishing making dinner depending on how quickly you get here or I'm just finishing eating dinner or tidying up or something like that, and you come in and you make your tea and you know I get everything set up and while that happens we have
just regular
chit-chat.
People conversation.
yeah, just human conversation.
Yeah.
Regular human interaction, not for public consumption. And that's usually, you know, when we badmouth people that we're mutual acquaintances with, and I complain about Crystal, which I've been barred from a specific subject that I wanted to bring up on the podcast, but I've been told that I can't.
Okay.
But I'm a little bit annoyed by it. It's just a stupid household thing. It's not like anything serious. It's just like but we don't get to do that because you're not here. Yeah. You're not at the house.
So it's good. But I mean, the consequence is that we're coming to you a little bit more tired.
Yeah.
But a little bit more friendly, maybe, is the trade-off.
Kind of linking into our pre-roll conversation about alcohol and potentially doing a drunk podcast at some point. But hey, I'm not gonna say any more than that because if you want to hear the uncut version, you gotta go over to patreon.com/Thunderquack and what is that, $10 to get the uncut? That's for the hardcore.
I just trust that you have a system and I am part of it.
You don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything about it.
Amanda does not know how the sausage is made, despite being one of the ingredients in the sausage.
Yeah.
But that's
you
know what? I think that's probably true of all of the ingredients in the sausage.
I mean, that is fair. I will say I at one point did know how to do my own stuff because remember when I was last summer and you know delusions of grandeur and wanting to podcast, I figured out that whole Spreaker system and now we don't do that anymore. So I I don't know how to even.
We abandoned Spreaker. We kicked it to the curb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, fun
sorry,
thing. You asked me if I had things to talk about on the podcast, and I don't.
Yeah.
But one of the things I do just want to say is shout out to the Mighty Ducks because I did randomly watch the Mighty Ducks this weekend because I was on my Disney Plus and we had finished watching WandaVision and I was like, well, what else could I just like put on in the background? And I was like, man, I haven't seen me a little Joshua Jackson in a real long time. So I can't not watch that without saying like, Amelia, no, at least twice. So anyways, that was my like fun weekend Disney kick was somebody. And now I want to watch Mighty Ducks 2, because I will say D2 Mighty Ducks is like the superior film. I like this
not to get too into it, because we will have lots and lots of Mighty Ducks conversations when the Disney Plus series happens. We'll be talking about Mighty Ducks a lot, I'm sure. But yes, D2 does a lot of things better, but the Mighty Ducks is a much more pure film.
Oh yeah.
D2 is a lot of product placement and then a story built around that product placement.
That's fair.
The Mighty Ducks, you could be forgiven if you forget that that's a Disney movie, right?
Yeah, I guess
because it's just a sports movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's got a solid heart. It has very, very clear moral lessons in it. With D2, it's a little more like, it's very 90s. Like it goes like the only thing that, this is gonna sound bad, but I hope that people understand the direction that I'm coming from. The only thing that could have made D2 more 90s is if one of the hockey players that they pick up along the way was in a wheelchair. Like that would have been the only thing to make it more 90s, because it's definitely from that era in the 90s where everything was about like shoehorning in diversity and representation, because it was such a new concept, right? So it's like the nuance of it hadn't quite happened yet. Like now we're in a place where representation and diversity happens in a much more natural, like you like when it's done well. I mean, we still get the shoehorned in awful representation that actually ends up doing more damage than good. But a lot of the time nowadays we get good representation, which is organic and done out of sincerity and with people involved who actually have that perspective and all that sort of thing.
And serves the story and all that.
Yeah, but in the early to mid 90s, there was a lot of like, okay, so we're putting together these characters for this show or this movie. Got to make sure you got a black one, a brown one, an Asian one, and somebody's got to have a disability of some kind. And it can be, you can combine one of those ethnicities with a disability, but usually we want the person with a disability to just be white, because we don't want to overwhelm the audience. Like everything was kind of like focus tested to death like that. And D2 has that problem of like, well, now it's not just the Mighty Ducks. You guys are Team America, so you have to Team USA. So you have to represent all of the USA. So we're going to bring in all of these different people from different cultural backgrounds, and that's going to be the conflict on the team, because the Ducks are obviously, the Ducks fly together at that point. Right.
I actually don't remember this from us. So maybe I should rewatch.
You don't? Okay. Well, I mean, like, watch D2, because
I don't know. Yeah.
Clearly, you're not as hardcore of a Mighty Ducks fan as I am. But
I'm not. Maybe I also just wasn't triggered by the same kinds of diversity dilemmas that you seem to have.
I'm not saying I don't know that I'm like triggered by it, but I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna compare the two movies, the Mighty Ducks is like a very, like, it's a like somebody sat down and wrote that screenplay with the purpose of telling that story. With D2, somebody sat down to write that screenplay with the purpose of hitting some check marks. And diversity was one of those check marks.
I get what you mean. Okay.
Rollerblades and neon was one of those check marks. Right? And product placement for Wheaties and Bauer and Nike and all of that stuff was a very, very big. I think those were individual check marks on that one. I remember the Wheaties box thing is such a big deal in that movie that, like, that's how I, like, as a kid learned, like, you know, when you win the Olympics, you end up on the Wheaties box or whatever.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So yeah, like, it's just I think, like, because it's funny, because then you get to D3 where they ran out of ideas. They're
I
like,
don't even
oh,
remember D3 very well.
we got to make another one, but these kids are getting too old and we don't want to reboot it with a new group of kids. So I guess they're going to go. Are they going to go to college? I don't remember if they go to college or if they just go to like a fancy high school, like a boarding school type high school that has like a.
Oh yeah, I thought that they become like a sports team or whatever, and then they have to go to.
Well, there's like the varsity and the junior varsity, and I think the Ducks become the junior varsity team, and they're not the Ducks anymore for the second time. Like there's a lot of like recycled ideas in D3, but Emilio is not in that one. And that's the one where like Joshua Jackson becomes the lead.
Right. Okay. Because it says Emilio Estevez is in it.
In D3, he's in it, but he's not the coach.
He's not like the main guy. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. But yeah, okay. It makes sense because he was like grown up enough that they could actually make it a show about the kids rather than a show about Gordon Bombay falling for a hot mom.
Yeah.
Or a 90s mom, I will say. You know, hotness
she's a hot mom.
Right. Yeah, I guess so.
She's still hot by today's standards.
There you go.
I don't know. Maybe that's just because I'm a 90s kid. But but in its entirety, The Mighty Ducks is a fantastic franchise. And when I say in its entirety, I also include the animated series, which has nothing to do with the Mighty Ducks hockey team.
It's just ducks that play hockey.
And it's literally about alien space ducks that come to Earth and end up playing for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. They are the Anaheim Mighty Ducks in that universe. And that cartoon's awesome. It's an awesome cartoon. It's fantastic. And that cartoon exists solely to sell duck masks on jerseys. That was why they made that show. But like a lot of things from that era, somebody took advantage of that to just do an awesome genre show. And so
there are worse things.
Yeah.
So okay.
There are a lot of shows like that are like just these like very corporate, like, and now we got to make an animated series because if we're gonna sell cereal and action figures, we got to have a cartoon. And so they hire somebody and that person goes, I don't care what this property is. This is the story that I'm telling.
I will say that this is like what makes animation hard is that there's some people that take the opposite bent and they just have such a harder time. You know how much harder it is to create like animation stories first from story and then get the properties, whereas all this stuff just gets made because they're like, well, we have a toy, we might as well make a property to go along with it. What do you want to talk about? You just hit the nail. There's like a whole world of like, you hit a sore spot.
We'll move past that quickly.
Let's just move past it.
Let's talk about all these movies that have gotten shifted release dates. I guess it was Columbia. I don't know what studio it is. Who does the Bond movies? It used to be MGM, but MGM's owned by somebody else now. Is it Sony?
I have no idea.
I guess because Sony owns Columbia TriStar, which is responsible for Ghostbusters, which is one of the things that got announced.
I mean, I am on IMDb right now because I was looking up Little Joshua Jackson, so I could look here.
In any case, like a handful of movies got announcements this past week that they're getting their release dates pushed yet again. So No Time to Die and Ghostbusters Afterlife are caught in that. I could care less about a James Bond movie. I really don't like the Daniel Craig James Bond stuff. I just find them really long and boring.
Okay.
But look, I'm a Connery purist, and some people might be saying like, you think that the Daniel Craig movies are long and boring compared like, am I comparing that to the Sean Connery stuff? No, I'm not. But I think that by today's standard of filmmaking, I find the Daniel Craig stuff to be kind of like, they're kind of meandering, and like they just don't feel like they really have like an actual identity to me. Like they just feel confused whenever I watch one.
Okay.
Like they don't know if they want to be classic James Bond or if they want to be Pierce Brosnan gadget James Bond or if they want to be something completely else with parkour and extreme whatever, right? And it's to me that I just find it tiresome to watch the movies, so I could care less. I will say a Sean Connery James Bond is a long boring movie, but it's Sean Connery, so as problematic a human being as he is a delight to watch on screen. So I don't know. He's one of those actors where like he could read the phone book, right? It's like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is a great example of a movie that a lot of people will tell you is a bad movie that I absolutely love because you've got Sean Connery, you've got it's I think Amy Smart is in it. It was another actor that like I think Amy Smart gets a lot of flack. I'm gonna look up League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So that I can.
I did like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Kind of.
It's not Amy Smart. It's Peter Wilson.
What? I have no idea who that is.
Totally different actor. Both blondes. That's fine. Who else was in this? Shane West is in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Shane West. Yes.
Yes, please. Right? Like I'll take some Shane West. Like, where'd he go? What's he up to?
I mean, speaking of deep cut 90s, Shane West, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like and then the production design on that movie is so fantastic. But anyways, James Bond got delayed. I think this is his last one. This is Daniel Craig's last James Bond movie.
I think so, yeah.
And then he's out and they'll replace him with somebody else. But more importantly, Ghostbusters has been delayed yet again. It was supposed to come out last March or April. I think maybe April of last year. It got pushed to the summer. And then obviously that didn't happen. So it got pushed indefinitely at one point where they were like, it's not coming out on that release date, but we don't have a new one for you. And then it got pushed to this March. And then most recently, I think now it's been pushed to November. And I don't have the exact date because I don't care to know the exact dates on these. I'll worry about it when we get there. Right. Like it's, I think part of that is me just not wanting to get my hopes up. Obviously, I want to see a new Ghostbusters movie so bad. This movie's been done forever. They should just release it digitally, but whatever. Yeah, so a bunch of this stuff's been pushed. A bunch of other things haven't been pushed yet, but I expect to get announcements very soon. And one of those things that I'm very, very, very worried about, if you follow me on Twitter, you've probably seen me cry about it a couple of times, is Fast 9, Furious 9. I don't know which of the two words they're going with, because they just market it as F9, which is just one of the things on my keyboard.
It's just a tech movie. They're totally like playing a game.
I every once in a while I'll be doing something and I'll just remember that the trailer revealed to us that Han is coming back in Fast 9. Let's just assume it's Fast 9 because I'm not going to say F9. And I cry a little bit, just a little tight, like a single very manly tear. That's actually, it's not even water and it's not like saline, like a regular tear, right? It's actually motor oil because it is a single tear for Fast and the Furious.
Oh yeah. I love it.
It's the patron saint Vin bestows that gift on us. I'll just be like super bummed for like a solid 15 minutes while I think about the fact that he should have been back by now. And like the fact that he was taken from us at all is such a tragedy in and of itself. Now, one of the real big issues is that, you know, Gal Gadot is also dead in that world, because they kind of had a thing going, right? So,
wait, what world are you talking about? What did
in Fast and the Furious?
Gal Gadot is in a Fast and the Furious movie?
Oh my god! I thought you liked these movies. I thought you were a fan. I'm
one
talking
is she in?
I am not even talking high level.
No, I know.
Family
Which one is she in?
fandom. She's in like 3 of them.
Oh.
She's in a bunch of them. Fast and the Furious is why people knew who Gal Gadot was when she got cast as Wonder Woman.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Let me look it up, and if I could reliably predict
it's 6. It's Fast and the Furious 6.
She is in Fast and Furious, which is
Fast
the 4th
5.
one. She is in Fast 5. She is in Fast and Furious 6, and she is in Furious 7.
Wow, she's like a big part of Fast and the Furious.
A massive part of Fast and the Furious.
I love it so much.
Because she's part of the because Fast and Furious, I think, is the one where we go. Is that the one where we go back in time? Or is that that's
just the one with Jordana Brewster again, though, isn't it? Fast and Furious. Yeah.
Well, Jordana Brewster's in all of them, but
not all of them, but like it was sort of like
yes, she is.
What?
Jordana Brewster is in every single Fast and Furious movie.
Not in Fast and Furious 2, isn't she? Like the one that the third one. Is she in Tokyo Drift? No.
Oh yeah, maybe she's not in Tokyo Drift. you're probably right. She's not in Tokyo Drift. Tokyo Drift doesn't count towards anything though.
Okay. Well. All right.
FFTD is direct to. It was supposed to be a direct to DVD. It wasn't even supposed to be in the theaters. The only reason that it came out in the theaters is because they managed to get Vin for 30 seconds at the end of the movie. Which is why he did it. I think was so that they would release it in the theater. I think that he made a deal.
Which is Fast and Furious the one where they have to drive underneath the border?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Because that's 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is where she's introduced as a bad guy.
Okay. I guess I just don't remember her.
She's one of the bad guys in that one, I think. She works for.
No, it's like she's definitely in it. I'm seeing it right now, but I'm kind of like.
No, I'm just trying to remember her role in Fast and Furious. But then Fast 5 is the one where we go back in time. Where the timeline gets really confusing. So what happens is Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, right? Everything's clear. Tokyo Drift happens. Tokyo Drift wasn't supposed to be a success. No one was supposed to care. Somehow, against all odds, because Tokyo Drift is an absolute tire fire of a film. The only thing about Tokyo Drift that makes it not decanonized is Han Solo. That's his name. He's just called Han in that one. But then they reveal later on that his last name is Solo. He's Han Solo. But it's pronounced it's pronounced Seoul, but like it's written like Seoul, Korea. He's introduced in Tokyo Drift. And I promise you that is the only reason that anybody cares about that movie. I mean, like, the drifting is cool too. Like, the racing in that movie is pretty good. But that story is awful. And the main character in that one, he's just the absolute worst. But because of that, because of how successful that one was, it brought Vin back to the franchise because he's not in Too Fast, Too Furious. So it brought him back to the franchise for Fast and Furious with him and I can only think of his character's name right now, Brian. But what's the actor's name?
Oh my God,
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker, because you just said it and then I like my brain.
So that brings the two of them back to it. So they make the 4th one as like, oh well, let's continue the story of the two main characters from the first film, right? Which is this massive jump. and like when you look at it on an actual timeline of years, it's like there's a big distance between Fast and Furious. Sorry, the Fast and the Furious to Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
they didn't happen close together.
No, they didn't
This
intend
franchise
to make this
shouldn't
a franchise.
exist.
No, it was supposed to be one movie,
Yeah.
a second one that they thought that they could get a little longevity out of, and then die with the third
And to be
one.
super clear, the Fast and the Furious is actually technically a remake. There's a movie from the 60s called The Fast and the Furious.
Oh, no way.
That it's loosely inspired by.
Huh.
That I keep waiting for them to somehow work into the canon, so that like it can be part of it. But anyways, so that happens, and Fast and Furious is a massive hit because at that point, like, Vin Diesel has gone from being in Fast and the Furious, and then being he's a bit of a diva. Let's all be honest. He's a bit of a diva. He's tough to work with. But then he does Pitch Black.
No, I thought he did Pitch Black first. Pitch Black was first.
Was that before Fast and Furious?
But Triple X came after, and I think
Triple X comes after, and
X
then Chronicles of Riddick happens, and then and then The Pacifier, which is the movie that got me on the Vin Diesel train, which is
I love that.
If it were any other audience, I would be like, that might sound weird, but I think you guys understand.
We get it. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I should hope that everybody knows me well enough by this point to go like, yeah, that tracks actually. Because the way that I got into The Pacifier might be interesting for people. The reason why I love that movie so much is because it came out on DVD when I was working at Toys R Us in the electronics department at that point in time, called the R Zone. And so when you work in the R Zone, you are stuck because it used to be like cordoned off inside the Toys R Us, like almost like a store within a store, with the security gates, right?
What's the R Zone? What is the R Zone?
Well, Toys R Us, and then R Zone just sounds cool and video game-ish.
So it's like a video game section.
It's like electronics, right?
Oh, okay.
So it's where all the DVDs and video games and expensive stuff. It's basically where they put all the expensive stuff, because then they could put spider wraps on them or put them in the jewel cases with the beep beeps and whatever, so that people can't steal them. People will still steal them. Doesn't matter. There was a TV obviously in the R Zone to play product on, so that you could get people to make an impulse buy and go, I've seen 30 seconds of this movie, I'm gonna purchase it now. The Pacifier got put on that TV at one point, and you just kind of end up watching it. Like, you just not even watching it, but just like seeing it in pieces and eventually putting the movie together in your head after having seen 30-second snippets of it over the course of 2 weeks working a 40-hour week. And so I watched The Pacifier. I've probably seen The Pacifier like in total, if you added it all up, probably like 30 times. And I was like, I hated Vin Diesel up until that point, especially because Crystal had an ex-boyfriend that also worked at the mall, and this was right around the same time that we started dating, because we met at Toys R Us, obviously. And she had a boyfriend who she described as having looked like Vin Diesel. He was just a bald guy that thought that he was working out, but was actually just kind of chunky. But wore, like the tight white t-shirt with the silver chain, because he thought he looked like Vin Diesel, but he really didn't. And so you can tell I'm a little bitter still.
I was like, well, it's been many years, dude.
But I'm also describing a specific guy, and everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I think I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder as a result of that. But then I watched The Pacifier and I was like, oh, this is Kindergarten Cop. Like, this is just a new Kindergarten Cop. And I love that movie. That movie is so good. So then eventually when I discovered that other people were like really into the Fast and the Furious movies after Fast and Furious, right? Like, this is sort of like nobody cared about them before that. And then Fast and Furious happens and people start to go, oh, this movie's actually really cool. And then Fast 5 happens. And Fast 5 is where that series turns into superheroes, right? Like, that's where, because that's the one that introduces The Rock. where he goes, he's got the line where he's like, he's giving everybody the rundown, right? Because he's the whatever. They're not FBI. There's some other, I think they're like a made up agency or something, but they're like like they're Americans that can arrest people in other countries for some reason, which doesn't make any sense.
I cannot help you with anything in this movie. So
yeah,
like they're like the thing, and I'm like, I don't know.
It's fine. But I'm just giving context, because he's given like the whole like getting off of the plane, everybody's like moving gear around, where he's not talking to anyone in particular, but he's kind of talking to everybody at once, and he's like, like, we got to do this, and I need this, and you got to cordon off every chicken house, hen house, ball. That's from The Fugitive, but whatever. And whatever you do not let them get in a car. And you're just like, oh, because that's when they have superpowers. Like, if they're not being in a car is Vin Diesel's kryptonite, which for most of us is like, well, that's how most of us live. Like, most of us don't spend all of our time in a car, but Dominic Toretto, like, don't let him get in a car, because if he gets in a car, all bets are off, right? And then in the next movie they take that a step further. When good God, he's fighting. Who's he fighting? One of the main bad guys. Is he fighting what's his face? Shaw? Hobbs? Which one? In Fast and Furious 6.
That's not.
Is the one with Jason
Luke
Statham,
Evans?
right?
Luke is in which one? Yes.
Is that the one? Luke Evans is in it. Is that the one that introduced it? Yeah. So maybe he's fighting him. Maybe it's in the next one. Maybe it's in Furious 7. Who's the bad guy in Furious 7? Is Deckard Shaw. So maybe it's in 7. I think maybe it's in 7, where they're fighting on top of the parking garage, and it's like kind of crumbling because they've crashed a helicopter into it or whatever. I think, I can't remember, but explosions have happened. But there's like a crack in the parking garage, and they're fighting on the roof of it. And Vin Diesel, I hope that I'm not spoiling this for anybody, but if this is the thing that gets you to watch these movies when you've been on the fence, then so be it. He looks at the crack at his feet. There's just like this little crack at his feet, and he looks at the bad guy, which I think it's Shaw, whatever. It's one of the Shaws. And he lifts his foot in the air, and he brings it down as if he's the GD Incredible Hulk. And that crack grows and heads right for the bad guy, and the building crumbles in front of him. And that's the moment where you go, oh, he does have superpowers. He is a superhero. Yeah, stronger than an average human being, in the same way that like all of the X-Men, like yeah, okay, Cyclops' main power is that he shoots optic blasts, but he's also like way stronger than a regular person, right? Like he does things that's like, that's like a 10-foot vertical leap. Like that doesn't make any sense, but whatever, we're gonna let it go because it's X-Men. So we're like playing with those rules with Fast and the Furious. In any case, I love those movies. I really want to see Fast 9. I really, really want to see it because it brings Han back. But I was talking about the timeline thing, where I think it doesn't matter when it is in the timeline. Like, it doesn't matter if it happens before or after Tokyo Drift. But in 5, they bring Han back, even though he dies at the end of Tokyo Drift. Because like, they didn't think they were ever going to make any more Fast and Furious movies. They were like, this is the last one, guys. Like, we're done. They're never going to let us do this again. But so they bring him back in 5. And the way that they do that is that they kind of like explain that in the timeline, 4, 5, and then I think 6 all happen before Tokyo Drift. And I think it's at the end of 6. I think it's at the end of 6 that Han goes like, hey, I gotta go. I have something to take care of. Like, cause they get their big score at the end of 6. And it's like, he's like, I responsibilities I got to go take care of. Like, I've been avoiding this for too long. And so that's like his out to like go back. And the greatest thing about it is that they never explained this with like those happened before Tokyo Drift, as in like Tokyo Drift happened in whatever year that was, and then these movies happened before it, and like we thought about that, and so like they don't have smartphones or whatever. No, the explanation in universe is that Tokyo Drift happens after that movie, after I think it's 6. Yeah. But that it happens in the time, like 6 still happens in time around the same time that 6 came out in movie theaters. So in Tokyo Drift in Japan, in the year or two after that, after Fast and Furious 6, the names of these movies are so confusing and dumb.
Well, they're just numbers.
Everybody's got flip phones because Tokyo Drift came out before smartphones. And normally it's like, whatever, we can just ignore this, except that cell phones are a major plot point in that movie, because the reason why everybody's able to watch the Drift King competition is that it's being broadcast to their mobile phones. So there's major sequences of this movie where everybody's watching this race happen on their little tiny like Motorola and Nokia phones with their little like 1-inch screens, and it's like a major plot point. Anyways, these movies are dumb. You really don't have to worry about it that much.
They're great dumb fun though. I
yeah, at a certain point there's a sub like, and they drive a tank. And it's not like they drive a tank like it's a normal thing. Like Ludacris is like, we got a tank. And it's everything. When the guy's name is Ludacris, but the thing that he says is even more ludicrous than the fact that his name is Ludacris. I don't even know
how you deal with that. How do you deal with that?
Right?
Don't even know.
I love these movies so much, Amanda. I love them so much. And Han is my favorite character in the whole thing.
I hope that you get a nice birthday present and it stays around.
It was literally supposed to come out on my birthday last year. I know. Literally on my birthday. This year, it is supposed to come out on May 28th, which is not exactly on my birthday, but it's close enough that I count it. It counts as a birthday present.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's 4 days later.
I think they should do that for you. I think they should give it to you for your
Here's the thing. You don't have to release it to everybody, okay?
Just you.
Universal? I think it's Universal that makes them.
Yeah, I think so.
Just let me watch this movie for my birthday, please. Please. I will kick everybody else out of the house. In fact, I prefer to watch it that way. Like, I will make Crystal go sleep at her mom's with the girls. Like, this, don't get me anything for my birthday. This is my birthday present. Universal is going to let me watch The Return of Han Solo. Everybody leave me alone. Everybody be really quiet. Everybody just back off for 3 hours, because I'm going to need some time to prep, and I'm going to need some time to decompress afterwards.
There you go. I mean, it's fair. You got a whole plan. I'm excited for you. I
need this movie so bad. You would think that Ghostbusters would be the one for me that I'm like, come on, because Ghostbusters is so like foundational to who I am as a geek. Because it's Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles. Like, those are those are the first two pillars of who I am as a human being. So much of who I choose to be is informed by Peter Venkman. Like, it's not even funny. It's kind of sad. It's actually probably something that I should talk to a therapist about. He's not a good role model. He's not the type of person you want to be. In any case, this Fast and the Furious thing is just a real problem for me. And if it gets pushed to November or December, that's fine. It can be a Christmas present. It can come out in December, Christmas Day. Like, that's cool. I'll go see it on I don't know, like the day after Boxing Day. I can live with that. But I need this movie. I need it so bad. I need it so bad. But if all these other movies keep getting delayed, it's not really that big of a deal, because at least Warner Brothers and Legendary have got me covered with Godzilla versus Kong, because that's gonna get a digital release. I mean, like, I have to imagine. I haven't actually looked into it, because we always got to like research it. And are we gonna get the same thing in Canada, sort of thing? But I think after what happened with Wonder Woman, that they're hopefully smart enough to know, like, hey, yeah, give this a.
We're basically domestic. We're basically domestic box office.
Like give it a release window in Canada as well on digital, because people will definitely grab it. They just dropped the trailer, and to be perfectly honest, I'm a little bit mad about the trailer because it shows them fighting, and I like you don't have to show me. I get it. You have to show the general audience, like they need to see it in order to know, like, Godzilla and King Kong are going to fight each other in a movie called Godzilla versus King Kong. But I didn't need to see it. I needed pure hype, and not
pure hype.
I don't know. I needed the tease and not the strip. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, no.
Like I didn't need to see anything. Like you just leave it to my imagination, because I can fill in the gaps.
There you go.
But like just get me excited for it. Just give me that amuse bouche of I just needed like the lead up and like a little bit of the context of like, why is Godzilla gonna fight King Kong? But I do like what they're setting up, that Godzilla is rampaging and they don't understand why, because in his last two movies he actually saved the world twice. He's been like have you watched those movies?
No, and I feel like I want to. But I mean, considering that like Matthew Broderick's Godzilla is one of my favorite movies, I have a hard time moving on to bigger and better things. But like,
I will tell you that these movies are much better than that movie, but I also have a soft spot for the Matthew Broderick Godzilla from 1998.
I'm aware of what it is.
The animated series for that show was fantastic.
Oh, I did not watch it.
It was so good. It continued that story, like literally. You know how at the is it at the end of that movie, or is it just like sort of
at the end with the eggs?
Yeah, where we see like that there's still an egg.
Yeah.
Like they left it open for a sequel, right?
Mm-hmm.
That egg hatches, but Matthew Broderick's character, he's the cartoon series, the animated series opens with him basically saying to the government, like to the military, of like, no, you don't understand. We have to make sure that there are no more eggs. And they're like, yeah, there aren't any more eggs. We destroyed all of the ones in Madison Square Garden. And he's like, no, but there could have been other nests. One of them could have gotten displaced. We don't know for sure, and we have to make sure. Like, you need to be sweeping the entire island of Manhattan. You can't let people back in until we know. And they're like, no, we gotta let people back in. And so he goes off on his own with his crew of people, and he finds the one egg that's left, and it hatches right in front of him. And when it hatches right in front of him, the baby Godzilla that comes out imprints on him.
Cool.
And it's really important that you understand that this one is a boy Godzilla. The last one was a girl Godzilla, but this one is a boy Godzilla. It's super important for everybody to know. And you might think that maybe it was a misogynist reason, but it's actually not. It's important to know that he's male, because then we don't have to worry about him breeding, about him making more Godzillas. So it's like that. Okay, we know he's not going to make more Godzillas, but it's important that he imprinted on Matthew Broderick, or animated Matthew Broderick. It's not actually Matthew Broderick, but because now he'll listen to Matthew Broderick. And that's important because all around the world, other nuclear testing sites and stuff like that have created other giant monsters that we're now going to have to start dealing with.
Nice.
And Matthew Broderick and his crew of zany companions from the movie, including like all of the characters from the movie are back, even though none of them look like the characters from the movie, but whatever. And they all completely change. Like it's a continuation of the story, but like they did a really bad job of maintaining the continuity of it. Either that, or they weren't allowed to because of copyright reasons or whatever.
Right.
But they basically form Team Godzilla, where like they have all of this equipment where they can like lead Godzilla to go fight these other monsters that pop up in order to protect the world. And then eventually aliens come down and they're like, hey, we're gonna take over the whole world. And Godzilla is like, no, you're not, because I'm Godzilla and I'm gonna stop you, which is a classic Godzilla storyline. And it gets even better because like all of those other monsters, they didn't necessarily all get destroyed. Some of them just got defeated or turned into another form or whatever. But then like they got to all team up in order to fight the aliens. But the aliens also control some of the monsters, and so there's a whole thing. It is a great cartoon series, and if you live in Canada, you're in luck that you can stream the whole thing from the CTV app. It's all on the CTV app.
I did not know that. So
along with a bunch of other, that studio did a bunch of stuff in the late 90s. They did Godzilla, they did Extreme Ghostbusters, they did the Men in Black animated series, and a couple of other things. They all have it's all the same art director, so they all, every series has like a very similar look, like a very similar style, which like 90s kids would recognize, and if they watch those cartoons they know exactly what I'm talking about. They'll kind of have this like chunky, almost like graffiti-ish style to them, and they're all on the CTV app. It's awesome. It's so cool because you can hook that into your Apple TV and then just use Apple TV to like the Apple TV app on your smart TV or whatever to just watch that stuff. So you don't have to like use the clunky garbage CTV app to do it. That doesn't pay attention to like what your last episode was or whatever like that stuff. But you can just use Apple TV to do it. That was 2 free ads for 2 apps that we should be sponsored by those things. But whatever. So yeah, Godzilla versus Kong. He's rampaging for some reason. We don't know why. But in the previous movies, he was like the thing that was stopping the rampaging monsters. So it's like this is like an upset within this universe. And the solution is going to be that like, well, we can control Kong because there's this girl that can communicate with Kong. We don't call him King Kong in this universe, by the way. He's just Kong.
Really? I don't think I knew that.
And so this girl is going to help us get Kong to fight Godzilla to stop Godzilla. But here's the thing. We're going to learn by the end of this movie that Godzilla is actually trying to protect the world from something else. And Kong and Godzilla, they're going to team up. They're going to team up to fight something else. And it's going to be good. To be perfectly honest, I have no idea what monster it's going to be because they used so many of them in King of the Monsters that it's like, well, it's not going to be Rodan, it's not going to be Mothra, it's not going to be King Ghidorah because they were all in King of the Monsters. So yeah, it's going to be one of the lesser known weird Godzilla monsters, I think. And I think it will be the one that sets up the aliens. I think that'll be the end of Godzilla versus Kong is going to be the setup for Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. But that's my speculation as of right now. We'll see how it goes. Because that's what everybody wants. That's what people are like, oh, everybody wants to see King Kong versus Godzilla. No, nobody wants to see that. We'll watch it, and it's going to be awesome. That's not what people want to see. What people want to see is Godzilla fight a giant robot Godzilla. That's what everybody actually wants to see.
That's fair. So, I mean, yeah, that's fair.
I know that's not a controversial statement. That's not a hot take. That's
what's
just
better than Godzilla? More Godzilla.
Yeah. So, what's better than Godzilla? I don't know. How about Godzilla that shoots rockets from his fingers? That's what's better than Godzilla. But he's actually not better than Godzilla. He's just the closest that you can get to another Godzilla.
Yeah. There you go.
Although Godzilla 2000 was literally a movie where Godzilla just fought Godzillas. Because aliens came down and they were like, we're going to take over the Earth, but we can't take over Earth because Godzilla always protects Earth. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually create all of these Godzillas to fight Godzilla. And so what they basically do is they bring back a bunch of the different designs of Godzilla from over the years. And the whole point of making Godzilla 2000, which was a Japanese made, it was a Toho Godzilla movie, as opposed to the American one, which was not made by. It was basically like so far from an actual Godzilla movie that it's not really Godzilla. The whole point of making that movie was going through all of the Godzillas just to get to the 98 Godzilla, who we just call Zilla because he's not a god. There's so much. It's so controversial in the Godzilla community. I just so that Godzilla 2000 could basically one punch the Godzilla from the 1998 American Godzilla. He basically just like takes him down in one hit, and it's not even a fight. Which I think was it was in poor taste personally, but that's not how Japan felt. Japan was very upset by that movie because it didn't really get it. It didn't really understand what a Godzilla movie is supposed to be. But that's another thing. Let's get into the main topic that I wanted to bring up with you, because I want to get your opinion on some things.
Okay.
So I recently decided that I was going to check out ASMR, which I should have had the definition up before starting this segment, but I'm doing it right now.
That's what I hear. Like, I've heard. I think the reason I heard of ASMR is because Andrew has misophonia, so people talking about like chewing or like sounds, and I was like, I don't know what this is, and he's like, oh man, yeah, there's even people that like I don't know. I just like I feel like that's how I heard about it, was him talking about like the worst thing that could possibly happen to him was have to listen to
his version of hell.
Yeah.
So ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. Sometimes autosensory meridian response. It's a tingly sensation that typically begins on the scalp and moves down the back of the neck and upper spine. A pleasant form of paresthesia. It has been compared with auditory, tactile synesthesia and may overlap with frisson. It's the tinglies. You know, you get the tinglies that go down your back.
I guess. Sure. Yeah.
That's the response that you get from ASMR. Not everybody gets the same response. Sort of, it's like mileage may vary, sort of thing. But what it amounts to is it tends to be a lot of very soft, quiet, higher register sounds. So a lot of like breathy whispers, crinkling of paper, touching the microphone, which is a thing that you actually like you generally don't want to do. I'm not going to replicate any of this stuff because I don't know how to do it.
I was just about to touch the microphone because I was like, oh, you can't like say that and then me not do it.
Because if you do it wrong, it's actually like really annoying and can sometimes be painful to the listener. Which I find with some of the ASMR that I've listened to is like there is good and bad at ASMR, like anything, right? I've had an interesting journey with it. It's probably been over like the last 2 weeks, and I don't even know what really like prompted it. I think I just it's just something that's like been out there, and it's like I'm like late to the party. I know, like there's tons of people that are probably like way into this and know tons about it, but I think maybe it was just like a stress thing. I was just like, maybe this will just help me like relieve some stress. And it's just I mean, like it's a pleasurable feeling, right? Like that those tingles are like, that's a good feeling. People like that. That's why it exists. So I thought, like, I'm gonna check this out. I'm gonna see if it'll work for me, because I've never tried it. Maybe somebody brought it up on a podcast or something, and so it made me like curious about it. So I just went into Google and I literally just, or not into Google, into YouTube, and I just put in ASMR. That was it. And just looked at the results. And I clicked through a few of these, and I noticed something similar throughout a bunch of them, and I don't want to be judgmental. So, like, this is the thing, is that I don't want this to come off as me being like talking down on it, um or saying that this is a bad or negative thing. It's just a very interesting common theme that I've noticed in it, just getting started in this world. And that's that a lot of ASMR, although it's fulfilling the obligation of ASMR, like it is doing all of the sounds and the um using the tools and like these triggers, they call them. um they're following all of the rules to be ASMR, but there's a real common thread of, like anything on YouTube, very attractive women doing this. Very attractive women that are showing a lot of cleavage. Sometimes what I would look at and at a glance think is like artificially enhanced cleavage, meaning that they're wearing like hardcore push-up bras, and there's a lot of affirmation, and I don't even mean like this isn't even like a coded thing. Like if you put this in and you look, like there are so many videos of beautiful women basically saying you are a manly man, you are good enough, you're confident and strong,
Really?
like, and
Interesting.
it's so this is where I find it really interesting, because for me, with the limited experience that I have with it right now, I what they're saying, it doesn't have any bearing on it. It's irrelevant to me. Like it's in fact, I've taken to putting it on while I'm working to help me focus, like to basically um this is me dealing with my self-diagnosed ADD, right? I and I'm actually finding that it's working really, really well for now, which is how this stuff always goes, and it's one of the reasons why I think it's like it's undiagnosed ADHD, because one of the things with that is a tendency to like dive deep into something for a period of time and then drop it like a bad habit and never go back to it. So I think like this ASMR thing is something that I'll probably do for like the next month, and then at some point I'll stop and I won't think about it ever again. Like it'll just be gone from my mind. But for right now, it's helping me a lot with my productivity. So what I found in testing out like a bunch of different ones, and I tried really, really hard. I tried really, really hard to be, I'm not like scientific about it, but like not be like a pervy guy about it and just go like, I'm just gonna go to the first hot lady that I see and just hang out there. So like I sampled a bunch of different ones, like and none of the guys did anything for me. Their voices just, I think because their voices are too low.
Oh, okay.
It just didn't work for me. So like some of the sounds and stuff that they would do, like there's this one that they do that's really common, where they kind of like, if you kind of rub your fingers together really fast, like kind of flutter your fingers. I don't know if you can hear me doing it.
Oh yeah.
But it just kind of creates this like soft, almost like butterfly, like you would think of like a butterfly flapping sort of sound. That's one of the things that's a good trigger for me. But female voices are a much better trigger than male voices for me, and especially like the higher register sort of. And so I found this one that is Scottish Murmurs is her account.
Interesting.
And I don't want to be judged on this, because if you go to her account, it is all like, it's a lot of like like I said, like those affirmation ones and stuff, like what men want to hear and that sort of thing. And to be honest, I find those ones to be really, really cringy. Like when I listened to one of them and I was just like, what men? Because not me. Like not this guy. Like like these aren't the things that I'm concerned with. Although she does say some things that are nice to hear, that are like things about like everybody at work really respects you and stuff
nice.
like that, where
right?
I'm like,
yeah.
who doesn't want to hear that? I don't think that these are male things. I think these are just like human things. Like, people really listen when you talk. It's okay, cool. That's good. But yeah, like her voice, she's Scottish, obviously it's Scottish murmurs. Her voice and her accent, some of the words, the way that she says them are good triggers. And like literally, like I'll put it on and I've got my headphones in and I can hear it, but I am not listening. It does not matter to me what she's saying whatsoever. It is purely just like the auditory sensation, right?
Cool.
But it is this thing where I'm like, obviously I'm not that ashamed of it. I'm talking about it on a podcast to hundreds of people at least. I don't know, either that or I don't know, I guess I just enjoy being open and vulnerable like that, but it is this weird thing where I am kind of like judging myself, but then I'm going like but why? This is such a common thing.
Right.
There are so many, like,
it's really popular.
It's YouTube, which means that like the algorithm tells them what is being listened to, what's being viewed, right? And so that informs their decisions, and therefore you end up with a lot of like the same type of content, right? And it just kind of like that, it's almost like evolution in that way. It's almost like natural selection of like, you put out the video does well, we'll do more like that. You put out another video doesn't do well, we're not going to do more like that, right? So like you hone in on this stuff, and the community as a whole does this, so you've got this giant sample group. And so it's actually like a very scientific thing. So you can look at a trend like that and go, clearly there is a desire for this. And I think it speaks to a couple of things. It speaks to the fact that the male ego is inherently fragile because of the way that our society is structured, where guys are just terrified every moment of every day that they are going to be seen as less than a man, right? Like it's just drilled into us from the time that we're like babies, honestly, that you have to live up to this standard. And I mean, obviously the same thing happens for women, but I think with women it's very much an external standard. But I think for men it's very much like this internal standard of like, you don't cry, you don't do that, like you're tough, and you never show weakness and stuff like that, which are all very like mental things, which is counterintuitive because men are supposed to be physical and not mental, right? Like if we're talking about like stereotypical harmful gender dynamics and gender roles, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But this idea that so many men are clearly seeking out this like affirmation and stuff, and it's like, I'm glad that this exists for people to get that, like to fill that need, especially I think for men that aren't in relationships. I do worry a little bit that it becomes a substitute for a healthy relationship, right? And that's where I watch these videos, not even watch them, I'm really just listening to them, but it's YouTube and I don't want to pay for YouTube Premium, so I have to have the video up. Like if she did a podcast, I would just listen to the podcast. But I have these videos up, and like I kind of lost my train of thought there.
I don't know how to help you.
Oh no, so like for me, it's like I'm listening to these videos and I'm hearing this stuff and I'm going like, and I'm like doing that like introspection of like, do I care what she's saying? Like do I? Because on the surface I feel like I don't, but maybe subconsciously I do.
Right.
Because I think like subconsciously it would be like affirmation is affirmation. It's good for anybody, right?
Mm.
Again, there's stuff about like being like strong and burly and manly and stuff that I could care less about, right? That like I think consciously, subconsciously, because I think subconsciously I have many more feminine traits than most guys. So I think like I care more about a lot of more of like the the feminine coded stuff than masculine. I but like I do have this thing of like, am I getting something from these videos that I'm not necessarily getting? Because Crystal and I don't get to spend a lot of time together right now, because any time that we do have that we're not working, there are these two parasites in our house
Humans.
that take up all of our time. And Cassie is in like this, she's not going to sleep, and it's just like we just really have not had a lot of one-on-one time, and especially like throughout COVID, through the last year, it's been even harder, right? So I'm going like, is this, am I getting into dangerous territory myself with like filling a void of like the conversations that I should be having with my wife, where she's telling me that, like I'm good at my job, and like like giving me like those affirmations that your
Yeah, the things
partners
that you
should
have
be giving you if
human
if you're in a healthy
relationships for.
relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't, so that just got me on the train of thought of like, of thinking like this could be a damaging thing to a healthy relationship. This could, and it would be even worse if you are not in a healthy relationship or not in a relationship at all, because it could become like a substitution for a relationship. And again, I want to be really clear. I'm trying super hard not to be judgy about this. Like especially right now with the world the way that it is, whatever is getting you through is getting you through. And if you're not hurting another person, I don't care. Right? Like if you're
Right.
not hurting
Yeah.
yourself or somebody else, then like we're all just trying to manage right now. So like you do you, and like more power to you, right? But at the same time, just like thinking on like that sort of larger sociological level of like, this industry is filling this need very clearly.
Right.
But is this actually the way that we should be filling that need? Because sometimes because like social media, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, is like kind of fills this need in humans, but I don't, it's not necessarily in a healthy way. And I think we're going to look back on it in 100 years and go like, man, those Neanderthals banging rocks together, like it was not a good thing to do. And I wonder if this is a similar thing of like, are we creating weird loner guys, or are we creating like these weird dependent relationships with people that we don't actually know, where like
Oh,
I could see
I get
where
what you're
someone
saying.
with less of a it's so hard to talk about this without it coming off as judgmental, but like somebody who doesn't have as firm of a grasp on reality as I do, somebody who's not doing the introspection that I'm doing, that I'm talking about right now, that is just consuming without
Right.
a thought to the consequence of that consumption. um what effect is it having on them? And like thinking about again what we talked about last week with like that sort of like paparazzi type of um like disease, almost, it's almost because to me it's almost like a mental illness of
Like a
like,
sorry, a paparazzi disease, like we were talking about. I
we were talking about last week, like that need to like know what celebrities are doing, and
Oh,
like
these
like this,
individual women you're talking about, like
like
that
yeah,
people are getting
like that sort of
dependency in a
stalker
like
type
right.
of mentality. And how like because that it it there's no way it doesn't play into this. I know like we're sort of skirting like the OnlyFans, like the sex work, like online sex work conversation as well, which we've been talking for a long time, and I don't think we have time to like dig into that. That's a topic that I do want to talk about at some point, because it's been an interesting thing over the last year to see how that industry has changed so much. But it's like there's a component there of like you see with cosplayers, with ASM artists as they're called, which is the dumbest thing in the world, but that's what they're called.
Well, I mean, you need to do.
It's got to have a label.
There's a certain amount of artistry to figuring out.
No, I'm not saying that they're not artists. It's just like the ASM artist. Like it's the way that it's
gotcha.
Compound word, right?
Oh, I understand. The like
portmanteau
of branding guys.
Yeah,
I get it. I get what your issue is now.
Yeah. It's like a trigger.
Yeah.
And then yeah. So like I said, like cosplay, the ASMR stuff, and I mean like definitely with like online sex work, with like OnlyFans and stuff like that, like women who do like naked photo shoots and stuff like that. They create communities around their content, which is good and fine and great, awesome. It's the same thing that we do. But because of, I think, the nature of what they're selling, they create this almost like fanatical devotion, and you see it manifest in things like Amazon wish lists, right? That you see them like where they publicly post their Amazon wish list, and then their followers buy them stuff and send it to them. And
interesting.
Like on the one hand, it's like I get that, because like I have met up with podcast listeners in the real world, and hung out with them, and gotten like physical gifts from them and that sort of thing, as well as I've had a podcast listener take me out for dinner, and now several of them are some of my best friends in the world. So like I get it, and that's that journey. Let's use Matt Campbell as the example. I'm sure he'll be thrilled to hear this. He goes from someone who listens to my podcast, right, writes into the podcast, gets his email read on the podcast, hears that I went to Disneyland, messages me and says, "Hey, I work at Disneyland. Next time you're at Disneyland, let me know." And then I go, the next time I'm at Disneyland, I'm like, "Hey, I'm coming to Disneyland." We meet up. He got us like special VIP seating for the fireworks one time.
Nice.
And I think I've told this story before, but like when that trip, I think that was 2014 when we went, when Crystal and I went in 2014, and I'd been messaging with him, and I had said to Crystal, like, "Hey, so we're gonna meet this guy Matt. We met Matt, and we met Tim for the first time in person, even though I'd been friends with Tim for a few years at that point, but it was the first time I met him in person." And I was like, "Man, I hope these guys are like real human beings. I hope that they're not like, weird like super fans or something like that. They can just be like cool and normal, and we can just have a conversation." And thankfully that was the case. Both Tim and Matt are awesome, but there was like a worry there of like, oh no, like what have I gotten myself into by like letting this person into our actual life. But Matt showed up with his kid, with Jason, who was like a year and a half or something like that at that point. And maybe he was older than that. Maybe he's like 2. But it was like, oh, okay, he is a normal dude. And then we became friends. That's the journey that so many of these guys, and I'm going to single out men in this conversation, who are sending things to, let's pick a cosplayer like Jessica Negri, who's one of the biggest ones online. When they send her something to her PO box from her Amazon wish list or whatever, they send fan art or whatnot. Like there is a mentality of like, and then she's going to thank me, and then I'm going to start a conversation with her, and then we're going to become friends, and then she's going to fall in love with me. Right? I mean,
that's how I interact with everybody online.
Is that that's your goal with everyone?
Obviously.
I'm
Don't
not
fuck with
saying
people
that's
online, just
everybody,
kidding.
but I am saying that like that dynamic does exist. That is a thing, and
But
those
okay, but I'm only being like semi facetious. You think that if I ever perfected the like or crafted the perfect tweet that I wanted to send to Chris Evans, that I wouldn't fully expect him to want to tweet me back and think that I'm like the best person in the world for coming up with that tweet? I haven't thought of it yet. But come on, everybody like has like moments where you like think
sure,
like that,
yeah.
where you're like, this online person will totally fall in love with me randomly through
But
the internet.
But I do think that the majority of us have that moment. It is fleeting and then it's gone.
Well,
Of like,
I've yet to
ooh,
I've yet to craft the perfect tweet. I feel
wouldn't
like
it,
I can
wouldn't that
wrap
be
in.
neat? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, I have a dream that one day I'll be walking down the street and Jeff Goldblum. This will obviously be after the whole pandemic thing.
Of course.
Once the panty is over, I love that reference, that way of referring to it. It makes all the deaths seem more fun.
Oh jeez. Yikes.
I do have a dream that like I'll like run into Jeff Goldblum in some context and like I will talk to him, and whatever I say, I'll be so dang charming and he'll be so enamored with me that all of a sudden I'll be friends with Jeff Goldblum.
Well, there you go.
But I also recognize in reality that that's very unlikely to happen for a myriad reasons. One, the likelihood of running into Jeff Goldblum is very low. Because I never go anywhere when I am allowed to go anywhere. Unless he's at the Vancouver Aquarium or Metro Town, I'm not going to see the guy. Maybe if he goes to the spaghetti factory, but I don't think he's one for the spaghetti factory. Seems like a fancier guy than that. Maybe I'll see him at the Red Robin. Maybe he likes Clucks and Fries too. But and then the other part of it is me being charming enough that Jeff Goldblum, one of the most fascinating and charming human beings, is like, I've taken a liking to you specifically to the extent that I'm going to go out of my way to form a relationship with you. That's not reality. That is right up there with one day I'll have my own lightsaber, like a real one that cuts through metal, right? These are cool things to imagine and dream about.
Let's make that technology happen.
But they are very unlikely to happen. There's a chance. There's still a chance, but it's very unlikely. I'm more likely to get a hoverboard in my lifetime than
a lightsaber.
I just know that like when I'm at the point where I could not possibly stand on a hoverboard, like to do so would be detrimental to my health. That's when they'll figure it out. That's when they'll crack it.
Oh,
but
okay.
In any case, yeah, I don't know. Like I just like
you discovered this interesting like sort of fan nook, and you're having sort of a little bit of a, you wanted to debrief about it a little bit. It's sort of what I'm getting from this ASMR conversation.
I mean, like I talked enough that my throat is now sore.
So yeah.
Like I definitely did the majority of the talking on this episode.
You did,
but
it was also, I don't know. It was exciting to you. So,
but I am curious what you think about this and sort of like where your perspective is on this. But
well, because I've never, I mean, until 45 minutes ago, given a thought to ASMR, because it's not something that I like particularly understood or was interested in. But I understand. When you first brought it up and you're like, I want to talk about this, and I'm like, okay, interesting. I'm interested to see where this all goes. And now, but you're bringing it back to our conversations about fan culture, and I think that the thing that's really interesting to dissect about that is there's this performative space that online personalities have that can feed a very specific niche that allows individuals to feel like they have a really wholesome connection with somebody, or not wholesome, but like personal, like really personal connection, where you're like, this is somebody that talks to me every day, is somebody that's a part of my life, when really they are as removed from you as Scarlett Johansson or any of those other sort of celebrities or people that are providing a different kind of an art, right? Like me connecting with a movie and me connecting with that actor on the screen is always going to be slightly different than somebody that directly talks to their audience and engages with them. And part of that conversation is to affirm their own personal sense of well-being. It does create this really sort of interesting muddiness in how audiences are supposed to react to that. And I mean, I'm being a little bit of a nerd here because I come from that academic background where I'm like, well, what is the purpose of art and how does art get created to specifically, like, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists because of the audience. So when you're specifically creating something for an audience, part of what you're always considering is, what is the audience going to get out of this, and like why am I doing it? And so it becomes this sort of interesting, like it is sort of interesting to dissect in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like if you're fulfilling a need that is, I mean, really at its core, you're sort of like alluding a bit to incel culture, right? And without us talking about it, but that there's a certain amount of space on the internet that breeds problematic individuals because the lack of human connection in the real world, and the lack of you just miss a certain amount of empathy and a certain amount of relating to individuals in spaces where you know that give and take of emotion is there, and it becomes really insular, and you get these moments in your head where you're just being told by somebody that you think is connecting to you, but it's one way, right? That you're great, that you deserve this, that you're right. And what could that potentially do to you when you go out into the real world and you're like, why is everybody around me not affirming my well-being? How do I find that? And if the only place I can get it is from this one woman or this one person on the internet that tells me that, it is going to create a little bit of something different, right? Where that same type of audience is not fed the same way when it comes to like movie stars, right? Because movie stars aren't sitting there except for, you know, there's some with like social media presences, but I would argue like even people that are like famous people on the internet try to create a very specific distance. Like Will Wheaton is a great person. He talks to his fans all the time, but he's always very clear, like, I'm talking at you, right? And like, let's have a conversation. Like, don't be a jerk. We're all here together. But he's not going to be like, I'm your best buddy and let's message. And right, like you create a certain amount of space because you're there as a commodity in some ways, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the commodification of emotion is a unique thing, that what I'm getting from your conversation is what ASMR is sort of leaning into, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you separate that then from what it is that is being produced and who is producing it and for what audience? And I think that is something really unique and interesting. And I feel like now, again, because me nerding out, I'm like, I'm sure that there is a lot of psychology and papers and people that are dissecting this kind of culture to come up with better answers than anything we could come up on a podcast. But it is worth just being, you know, critical, like through a critical lens, like what is this culture that we're interacting with in our daily life and producing on the internet, and how, and what is our responsibility as individuals who contribute to that culture, or to who are, like, you know, parallel with it. So anyways, it's interesting. Thank you for making me think that way. I never really would have otherwise probably dissected it to the same extent. So.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean, like I didn't put the word incel to it, but like just like not even like subconsciously, I don't think, but like I think you nailed it there. Like that is kind of what I was driving at, is that culture is very much being, I think, fed by that the piece of the connection that I feel a lot of the men in that are indoctrinated into that culture are missing is what they're getting. I imagine they're getting from this affirmation stuff, which is because when you hear them talk about the relationships that they want, they often are actually very like derisive of the human connection component of a relationship, because they're like, oh well, I don't want to get friend zoned, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
well, actually, what it is that you just, like, you should be friends with someone that you're
Right,
in a
because you'll get a
romantic
certain amount
relationship
of
with,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that's a healthy, important part of a relationship, is that confidant, friend part of the relationship. And that can exist outside of those relationships as well, outside of a romantic relationship, but it should also be a part of it. They shouldn't be divorced from one another. But I feel like that culture has divorced those two concepts, because they think of that in relation to their, let's call them romantic targets, because that's the way that they think of them. They think of that as a weapon, like a defense mechanism almost. Is like, well, I'm going to friend zone you. I'm going to be friends with you because that'll stop you from being a romantic partner. And not realizing that actually, like, most healthy relationships start in a friendly place and then turn into a romantic thing, as opposed to just being overtly romantic from the beginning, and then turning into something else down the road, right? Like,
Right.
not just like those exist as well, but I think that, anecdotally, for me at least, the majority of people that I know that are in long-term, happy, healthy, committed relationships, they knew each other from work, or they knew each other from school, or like a friend of a friend, and eventually they got together, and that sort of thing. So it's like they're almost like substituting that dynamic with a very attractive blonde lady from Scotland talking to them in a whisper and saying nice things about them, right? Which, like, they should be getting that affirmation. If they're not getting it in their personal relationships, they should be getting it from therapy. That's where they should be getting it. But I understand the dynamic that, like, therapy is expensive. It costs a lot of money, and if you don't have health insurance, if it's not something that's covered for you, then that's not a reality. It's just not. And YouTube is free as long as you've got a connection to the internet. So, like what do you like? Yeah, of course it's going to be prevalent, because it is free therapy, but it's not
Actually,
healthy
like,
therapy, I
yeah,
don't
it's not.
think, right? Because I think if you don't have that ability to step back from it and say to yourself, I'm consuming a product, and in a really weird, like snake eating its own tail way, if you're on YouTube and you're not paying for that stuff, you are consuming a product as a product. You're a
Yeah.
box of Cheerios eating a Snickers. Like, it's really almost like absurd in the way that it works, but it is actually a viable economic model. But like if you're not looking at that as content and understanding and creating a layer of separation in your mind that is content, and you are a consumer of content, then and you are looking at as a personal relationship, like what we're talking about, that's a dangerous place to be, I think. That's my conjecture. I'm not a scientist. I am not I'm the furthest thing from it. I'm an artist. All I peddle in is conjecture and speculation, because I specifically like to draw science fiction stuff. That's ridiculous. So I don't know. I'm not an authority by any stretch of the imagination, and nobody should take my word as authoritative in any way, even if I speak that way. But yeah, I don't. It's just it's a really interesting thing that I'm kind of, now that I've dipped my toe into. I shouldn't even say I've dipped my toe into it, because I've gotten in pretty deep in the last couple weeks, but deep enough to like see the commonality here and go like,
Right.
there's something else happening here that is beyond an autonomous sensory meridian response, because that's all I was after. I'll tell you exactly what sensation I'm trying to replicate. In the second grade, I during a quiet assignment. It was like specifically like everybody quiet, heads down, do this assignment. I think it was math. Teachers walking around, and the teacher's aide is walking around and helping everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember specifically, I'm doing whatever this is, whatever this schoolwork is, and the teacher's assistant, the teacher's aide, bends over like over my shoulder to talk to me about what I'm doing, and is talking in like a low hush voice because it's quiet work time, and it gave me that ASMR, that meridian response, and like the tingles up the back. And like, so I can think of like a handful of times in my life where that has happened. It is almost always when somebody is helping me with something, right?
Interesting.
Where it's like that thing of like in school doing schoolwork, or filling out a form, or like just those
Right.
sorts of situations. So I know that like those are the real world situations where I've gotten that response. So I know that for me it is definitely tied to a psychological trigger, right? So I get it. Like
Okay.
like I totally understand where that's coming from. And that's the dragon that I am specifically chasing in trying to figure out like which of these ASMR videos works for me. I haven't found that. Like I as much as I've been able to replicate like a little bit of the tingle, I've never been able to like get that full response that I've gotten in those circumstances. So like I think maybe it's my headphones, maybe it's my environment, but whatever. I don't think that I'm gonna get it from a YouTube video. I think there's a specific human interaction of a person being in your personal space, and
Right. Yeah.
like that's contributing to that response. But like I can see where if you have a trigger that is very much along the lines of somebody telling you specifically that you're doing a good job, or like that, like you're worth it, sort of thing,
Right.
that's exactly what you would be going after. And like it's honestly, it's not that far off from those affirmations for me. Like it's like that thing that makes me think of it, right, isn't
Right.
that far off. But those affirmations, I don't think are having any like actual connection. Because like I said, I like half of what I do is writing, so I'm not listening.
Right.
I'm actually like
Right.
I'm in my own head thinking of copy and writing about
Right.
mining data platforms. Like it couldn't be further from the subject matter of the ASMR videos. Um but like for me, like I don't know. It's just like that's not even part of it. I am just like, it's just the sound. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I'm gonna keep like sort of exploring this and trying to find other videos and stuff like that maybe will do different triggers. If people out there listening to this are also into ASMR and want to throw me some suggestions, especially after hearing me talk about it at length, and you think you might like have a suggestion for it, like just hit me up on Twitter. Like I am totally open to that, because I am such uh, uh, like a noob is like the vernacular, I guess.
That was the word I was going to use too, and I was like, I don't know
I
if
want to
this is
use
right,
the
but
word.
that's the word I wanted to use.
I want to use the word neophyte, but I don't know if that's neophyte, a person who is new to a subject, skill, or belief. Yeah, like I'm. It's so foreign to me, and it's one of those things where it's like there's such a broad like collection of ASMR on the internet that Google is no help. It's like, what kind of ASMRs? Everything is like, just try a bunch of videos and find what's right for you. But I'm always a fan of firsthand recommendations and that sort of thing. So if anybody out there is into it, Amanda, I think you should check it out. I think you should try and find some videos and look, hey, it's not just for boys. There's lots of pretty guys.
There's so much stuff on the internet that I feel like it would be interesting, or like I have a friend who watches the videos of the women that eat stuff that they it's just like a video of them like eating a big plate of pasta or something, right? And I was kind of like, well, what is it? And they're like, that's what it is.
That's it.
It's just them eating food. And I'm kind of like, interesting. Like there's just so much, like there's just like things.
I would derive no pleasure from that. In fact, it would probably just be frustrating because I'd be like, I want to eat that food.
I know, I want to eat that food too. But yeah, I mean, I could, I mean, maybe I'll look into it. But it also is like weird to me because also as a person, I'm not an oral person. Like auditory stimulus is not something that I retain nor enjoy. So it's one of the things that I always talk about is like terrible, but it's one of the things that I like don't really listen to podcasts.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I have a hard time like retaining things that are said to me, right?
That's actually, I'll say if people have recommendations of podcasts, because with podcasts, it's so much harder to figure out like what are these different podcasts? Because I put ASMR into the iTunes, like the Apple Podcast app, and it was just like, it's just album art. And I was just like, this doesn't mean anything to me. Like this does nothing. At least with the YouTube videos, it's like, well, I can kind of like get a sense of like the vibe, right? Of like the atmosphere they're trying to create, because like with some of them it's very much like it's flat lighting, it's very like straightforward, I'm gonna rub some things in front of a microphone. And then with other ones it's like, oh, there's like, it's more like candles and like sort of a little bit more of like an ambiance to it. And then with other ones it's like overtly sexual. It's just like you can see it in YouTube
gamut.
It's easier to sort of like gauge, okay, those ones that's not what I'm here for. I don't need to see them actually in their underwear. That's not the goal here. And then and as well as like with like the like more like straightforward scientific approach, the like the tools, like the like crinkling paper, like clacking things together, that stuff doesn't really do anything for me. So I've been like, yeah, that's not, you can kind of tell which videos are going to be like that, and you're like, okay, I'm good, I don't need those. So but with a podcast it's much harder, because obviously it's just whatever the album art is, and then that's it, which is why I try and have our album arts just got like, I actually have to update it for 2021 stuff, but I don't know what's coming out in 2021. I guess I can put WandaVision, I could put Godzilla and Kong, Ghostbusters was on last year. Look how that worked out. So was Wonder Woman. Technically Wonder Woman came out last year, I guess.
Technically.
Mulan also came out last year. Mandalorian came out. Okay, I did pretty good.
There was some stuff.
I did pretty good. Considering everything that did get pushed, I think I got about as close as somebody could get. But yeah, if anybody's got ASMR podcast recommendations, hit me up. Arkwolf on Twitter, ARKWULF.
Nice.
Cool. I think that's it. I think that's the episode. We've been talking for a long time.
I think we've talked a lot about different things. Do you add our like outro with our like okay, because I was like, hey, I haven't like said my Twitter handle in a long time. Ooh, new plug. I have a new project that I'm doing, and people should follow my my new company name. It's at Download Joy Now is our like Instagram and Twitter and stuff. So I'm doing some fun short film things in March. And that's the company that I have with two awesome women in Vancouver.
Give us the elevator pitch for the short film. You always do this where you go like, I'm doing a short film.
Oh, I'm doing
and then you don't tell anybody what it is.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm sorry. Okay, it's a science fiction short film, which is like, so it's sort of like a sci-fi thriller, which I kind of like because I love science fiction and I want to just start making more stuff that's just science fiction. But it's basically a lonely widower uploads his dead wife's consciousness into a biosynthetic replica, and
after a few days together, she learns the terrifying truth. And that is that, I mean, spoilers, but he killed her.
Yeah.
So it's basically a man that brings back his wife because he got so used to her doing everything for him, and she was trying to learn and grow, and he wouldn't let her. And anyways, it's cool. I'm really excited for it. It's very scary to be making films in time of COVID, but if I'm going to make anything, I'm going to make this because it takes place in like one location, interior and exterior, and only has a couple actors and a really awesome team that I want to support because our director, Olivia Peterson, is fantastic. Some people actually might know her from, she was in, I don't know if people watch Continuum, but she was in Continuum and has been acting in things for many, many years. So it's one of her transitions over the last few years into directing, and I'm very excited to support the work that she's doing. So, yeah.
Awesome.
That's it.
Cool.
That's my short film.
I don't have anything to plug. You guys are listening to it, so thanks, I guess, for listening.
It's kind of nice to have something again because it's been like I didn't have anything last year, so.
I would say it's actually very nice at the moment for this to be the only thing that I have going on. I'm doing a little bit of drawing, but like I don't even have like an ongoing monthly project that I'm doing there. Right. I'm just trying to get used to my new iPad because I got that iPad Pro. So nice. I'm learning Procreate and stuff, but and I'm really liking it. But you guys know, go follow my art account on Instagram, Archangel Wolf, ARKANGELWULF. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Excellent.
Thanks everybody for listening. Next week's your week off, right?
It is. Yeah, I was going to check with you, but I'm pretty sure.
So you guys are going to get a double dose of Patreon episodes with me cuz January just happened. It just got away from me. I think it's because we took the extra time off at the beginning of the month, and I specifically took time to do no podcast for at least 2 weeks. So in the time that I would have done, in the gap that I would have done at the beginning of the month, I decided not to do a podcast. So what you guys will get is I'll do an episode at the beginning of February and then another one towards the end of February. Which is, now that I say it out loud, challenging myself because February is a shorter month, but that's all right. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll just mean that I give Amanda 2 weeks off, or like an extra week off, or it'll be a shorter break, or shorter between. Yeah. Anyways, thanks everybody for listening. I will see you next week. Amanda won't.
Awesome. Stay safe, everyone. Wash your hands and be kind to one another.
Follow the Thunderquack Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by searching the Thunderquack Podcast. You can support us in 3 ways. First, by heading to the podcast service of your choice and leaving a rating and review. Second, by going to store.thunderquack.com to pick up some merch from your favorite podcasts. And last but not least, by heading to patreon.com/thunderquack to kick in with your monthly pledge of support and get cool rewards like early access, ad-free episodes, and extended episodes. The Thunderquack Podcast is the official podcast of thunderquack.com. Head to thunderquack.com to discover more great